This amendment would simply condemn the racist things that have been said about Justice Clarence Thomas.
So to be clear, Senator Byrne, you're talking about simply saying that we condemn racism against any justice, but he will only put one justice in?
I don't understand the reluctance to accept the fact that Justice Clarence Thomas, who happens to be a black man, has been the butt of a lot of racist statements. And I don't understand the reluctance to condemn those. And that's what my amendment does. I don't want to water it down. I don't want to bubble wrap it. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want it to say, big as Dallas, the United States Senate condemns all these racist things that have been said about Justice Clarence Thomas. Now, if somebody wants to offer another amendment to condemn every racist thing that has ever been said in the history of ever, I will vote for it. But this one is about Clarence Thomas. And I'll support going through justice by justice, all of whom have anybody who's ever served on the Supreme Court.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Hot News Today. Today's episode covers a moment that shook the Senate Judiciary Committee, when Senator John Kennedy called out blatant racism aimed at Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. This is about common decency and moral clarity. An amendment was introduced, debated, and passed. So what was said, who opposed it, and why does it matter? Let's dive into one of the most important moments from Capitol Hill in recent months.
But this one, and I think we all ought to go on record, is about Clarence Thomas.
Will Senator Kennedy yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
I'm reading your amendment, which I think is very well drafted. One of the things you cite is on July 13th, just a few days ago, 2023, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison disgustingly likened Justice Thomas to a house slave from the film Django Unchained. Are there any of the other 9 justices who have been subject to such racist attack in the last few days from a sitting Democrat in the state of Minnesota who has anyone else been subject to those kind of attacks as frequently, as brazenly, and as unapologetically?
No, sir. And it would be unconscionable for this committee not to condemn that kind of rhetoric for Clarence Thomas.
Here's what happened. Senator John Kennedy introduced Amendment SIL 23,885. It condemns racist attacks against Justice Clarence Thomas. This is not just a poor choice of words, it's brazen racism against one of the only black Supreme Court justices. Kennedy said it plainly. You either condemn that rhetoric or you don't. Not everyone was on board. Senator Whitehouse argued the amendment went too far by asking the Biden administration to enforce existing laws.
Chairman, despite Senator Graham's view of the breadth of this bill and the debate, I consider this to be not relevant to the matter at hand. And further, it specifically requests the Biden administration to inject itself politically into a law enforcement decision that the Biden administration, I think quite properly, has avoided getting involved with. So I urge my colleagues to vote no.
Any further discussion on this amendment? If not,
Are you going to offer a second degree then on the?
I have some discussion.
Senator Kennedy, your amendment.
How can you not condemn a statement calling Justice Clarence Thomas a house slave? Come on, folks. That's all this amendment does. I mean, does anybody here support that kind of rhetoric? I don't. I don't think you do. And this kind of rhetoric hasn't been directed toward John Roberts. It hasn't been directed toward Neil Gorsuch. It's been directed toward Clarence Thomas. And it's un-American, it's unconscionable, and I can't believe we wouldn't condemn it.
The objection wasn't to condemning racism, it was to enforcing the law. Senator Ted Cruz pushed back, saying, so it is now unacceptable to ask the Department of Justice to enforce the law?
Senator Cruz.
Mr. Chairman, 2 arguments have been proffered against Senator Kennedy's amendment. The first argument is, well, gosh, maybe there have been racist things said against other justices. I will point out objectively the venom and bigotry directed at Clarence Thomas is qualitatively different from any of the other 8 justices. This resolution gives multiple instances of elected Democrats currently in office launching racial epithets with complete impunity. The second argument given was the argument given by Senator Whitehouse, and he says, well, the part that is offensive of this is it calls on the Department of Justice to enforce the law. Just stop and repeat that to yourself again. So it is now the position of Democrats that it is unacceptable to ask the Department of Justice to enforce the law.
The double standard. Who gets protected? Here's the part that should infuriate every American, regardless of party. Other justices, Roberts, Gorsuch, Barrett, haven't faced this vile, racially motivated rhetoric. Only Justice Thomas has endured it consistently, often from elected officials. If someone called Sonia Sotomayor a racial slur on national television, the outrage would be immediate. So why is it so hard to defend Clarence Thomas? Why this moment matters, and what it reveals. This wasn't just about one amendment, it was about drawing a line in the sand. Senator Kennedy said it best. The Judiciary Committee finally passed the amendment. This was about right and wrong. Conclusion, final thoughts. Politics is messy, but truth shouldn't be. The attacks on Justice Clarence Thomas were racist, period. Thanks to Senator Kennedy, Congress went on the record. Your skin color should not make you a political target. Courage to call it out deserves to be heard. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay bold. See you in the next one.